Welcome to another episode of the N54 maintenance series. My name is Frank Macaluso from Garageaholic, and today we're going to be working on shifter bushings. Now this is going to be a very short, concise video. We are not going to be changing to shifter bushings since we don't need to. I'll show you, I'll inspect them, I'll show you the part numbers of everything that you need in order to procure new parts, but today we just want to take a look at the assembly and see what it takes to replace them. Stand by, guys. That's right, guys. This is basically everything that comprises of a 6-speed shift carrier for the GS653BZ or DZ, but different shift carrier with the DZ version. So hey, this is what we got here. We have our two bitch clips, they call them, or these are just the clips that connect with the bushings inside of the shift carrier to the transmission. We have our shift selector rod. We have our two clips that go on the ends of the shifter selector rod. And then we have our rear chassis bushing, which pushes into the shift carrier, and it gets mounted into the chassis by way of these two slots. Those slots go into the chassis, basically click it right into place. I'll show you how to do that too. Here we have our shifter, which is basically pretty standard, nothing crazy here. It's got a rubber boot here to isolate vibrations and noises and heat. And there's a little ball at the bottom there. And we are not going to be upgrading anything in the shifter. In fact, I don't think that there's a need to replace anything in the shifter. These bushings look great. There's no premature wear or anything on those, but those are pretty easy to replace. And I will provide the part number of those bushings down in the description, as well as everything else. But let's take a look at the transmission and see how this thing actually goes together. So this is what's called a remote shifter assembly. Now on the old T56 transmissions, the shifter is literally mounted on top of the transmission. The remote shifter assemblies offer latitude when you're doing engine swaps, so you can shorten and lengthen them, but it also makes it a lot more comfortable, and it isolates the shifter mechanism from the vibrations of the transmission. The selector rod essentially just slips right inside of here, and the two clips easily just slide here. Now there's a clip for each side. In fact, this is the wrong clip for this side. The clips basically install by pushing on the inside from the outside in. There we go. Like that, and then I'm not going to install it fully, but you take this part and you rotate it into this channel in the transmission housing, and it holds it in place. You've got both of them on either side, and it allows the shift carrier to slightly move with respect to the transmission, offering a nice, comfortable shifting experience. So if we take this out, and we have our selector rod, which goes into our selector joint. The selector rod goes in just like this, with the circlip that I mentioned before slipping right inside of here. It's actually not on correct either. I'm really glad I'm installing them incorrectly before showing you how to do it correctly. But this is how it goes, because you want to avoid the guibo, so you might want to kind of use the bend that they had designed in the selector rod to go over the guibo. And then the shifter itself sits on the other end of that selector rod. And when you shift, it is what moves it back and forth. Now, what holds the shifter in place to prevent it from moving around? And that is, as we said earlier, the shift carrier. So the whole assembly kind of looks like this. Most enthusiasts know what this is, but if you're a new and up and coming enthusiast, you might not know exactly how this works, but it's actually pretty neat how it works. And it's very, like I said, very versatile for doing any type of engine swaps. You can shorten and lengthen as you need to meet the transmission location with the chassis location on the chassis you decide to swap into. So now that we've taken a look at the assembly, let's install the transmission and get everything back in, and then reinstall everything. All right, the transmission has been reinstalled. All of the bolts that are necessary at this point in time have been reinstalled. Now what we did was we jacked up the front of the engine in order to bring the whole assembly down just a tiny bit. For demonstration purposes, I think this is the best way for me to show you how to reinstall this guy here, but you don't need to jack up the engine in order to rotate the assembly down. So this is the shift carrier, and you got to make sure that when you install it, it slips right on in there without any obstructions. Remember the clips, they clip down, right? So this is the exact orientation you want. You do not want them like this where they clip up. That's not right. So you can easily get your hand in here. Get it started. That's the first one. And the second one kind of clips right and slips into there. There we go. And now you clip them back in. Clip them, clip it back in. This guy's set. The orientation is just like that, with the arm on the right side. Now we can take our circlip and push that on. And it's a good idea to rotate the circlip just to make sure that you've got it completely installed. Now, when dealing with the rear carrier bushing that mounts the chassis, you install with the arrow pointing this way and the nub facing upward. And then what you do is just install one end into the nub here, and the other end you push until it snaps in at the other end. All right, now we're in the car and we need to put this back in. And there is a correct way and an incorrect way to do this. And the correct way is when the arrow is facing forward. That arrow being forward means that the car is in the forward position. And the idea is that you push this in just like that. Actually, it's hard to do this with one hand. I'm just gonna do it. All right, I can't do this with one. I can't do it with one hand. I don't want to break anything. So getting this boot in was not that hard once I was able to get rid of the sound deadening. And once I got that, it was actually quite easy. Getting this into the lip is very important. That's really what helps to make this the BMW feel, the BMW sound, the BMW experience, is to get all the sound deadening back in there where it came from. I know a lot of people, when they do repairs, they don't do it correctly, or they just say it's too hard and they don't even do it at all. But this is really important because this actually keeps things nice and quiet and comfortable in the shifter console whenever you're shifting, which is quite often, as you know. So this is the sound deadening, and what we'll do is we just squeeze that back in where it belongs. And this is right where it needs to be. And then, of course, shift boot, it's back on, right? And then, lest we forget, the shift. There we go. Perfect. Now let's go back underneath and hook it up. Now you just slip it on in. That on. Just about does it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching the shift bushing video. My name is Frank Macaluso, and there are tons more N54 maintenance videos. If you look in the playlist, you'll see there's tons more where that came from. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. My name is Frank Macaluso from Garageaholic, and I am out of here later.